Hey, seventh grade. Good to see you guys. Happy, will be Tuesday morning. I'm filming this Monday afternoon before I get out of here. So, announcements, reminders. Just a reminder, and two really, one that comes to mind that's not on here. Let's take care of the things that are school property, and really, you get to borrow Chromebooks for a year, but you get to take them with you a lot. So most of you guys are doing a great job of taking care of those, but don't throw them around. Don't run with them. Don't put litter and stuff all over them. Okay. Remind you that did sign a contract that said you'd be financially responsible for any of those things, but they're pretty durable devices and helpful devices for the educational process. Thus, that's why you have them, right? But they're not unbreakable. Okay, so take care of them, please. I know most of you are. The other thing I thought of is most of you again are doing this, but it doesn't make you smart or clever to make messes on campus. Okay, somebody cleans it up, we go about our day, but we all have to look at it. Okay, it's not an impulse that I understand that you want to make big messes and I don't know who you're trying to upset. Okay, but for all of the rest of us, take care of the campus. And if you see something that's not too nasty, you can pick it up on your own. Okay, that includes outside, inside, especially inside since we had a big renovation. So let's make this place look good. All right. When I was making pod for, it would have been eighth grade, Wednesday of last week, so the 6th. If you watch the news at all, you probably were aware that there was some pretty unprecedented things going on at our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., at the Capitol building. And the day I made pod video for those guys, it was just something that was pretty upsetting to me and a lot of people here. And it sounded like I talked to Mrs. Williams for you guys, and she said it didn't seem like a lot of people had questions. But even though it's not part of your curriculum, I'm sure she'd be okay to talk to you guys about your questions or perceptions of it. But this is the 3 things I wanted to tell you. Just a little bit about why it made me so upset, because I felt like it was sort of an assault on our free and fair elections, which are the foundation of our representative democracy. Those people that were certifying the electoral college votes, the senators and representatives, are our representatives. Whether we think they're perfect or not, that's who we voted for, and they were there doing their constitutional duty. And so to see that process sort of invaded and trampled on violently was pretty upsetting for a lot of people. And I was too. I'm not going to lie. Good news is I get a chance to talk to young people, the future of our nation. And here's just 2 little things I'll encourage you to do. Maybe I've done these before. Learn to listen and disagree respectfully with your fellow citizens and schoolmates here on a smaller scale. And then eventually maybe you can avoid arguing with each other and calling names on Facebook, because the adults nowadays, we've kind of messed it up a little bit. And if someone doesn't agree with you, they're enemies or whatever it may be. And people feel the need to badmouth them or call them names. Okay, they may think something completely different than you, but if America is going to work as a democracy, we have to see the commonality in that they're a fellow citizen. That's their right to think that. I want to actually try to listen to it. It is your right to disagree, but not to just shut them up. Okay. Be aware of online information silos. Not a term that I created, but it's how algorithms work on social media. If you like certain types of stuff, whether it's political or whatever, you'll get more and more of that. Okay, so eventually it's like you're living in a grain silo, and all you hear or see is this one single paradigm. And we've talked about paradigms enough last year in 7 Habits, so those can be kind of blurry. Okay, so try to open yourself up and see a variety of perspectives, because there's people in our world that think they're very convinced of one set of things, and they may be a little bit off base, whatever their political ideology, just because they live in this information silo. When they see something outside of that information silo, they think, what's wrong with this person? They're crazy. It goes back to this thing, right? They must be wrong. That's not necessarily the case. You just created this little bubble. Okay, and with the internet, we should be able to open ourselves up to a variety of information. So those are my thoughts. Okay, like I said, if you have any other questions or you don't know exactly what the whole to-do is about, you could ask Mrs. Williams or myself. Would love to talk to you guys about those things. So last week, I forgot we have these little arrows. We wrapped up our unit on harassment and bullying, okay, that we spent a lot of time defining things. And we wanted to talk about in the end, these 3 roles. And you notice that witnesses or bystanders here is the bigger circle. We're talking about the different roles here. So every now and again, there's the bully or the person that's being mean. If you find yourself to be that person, I encourage you to check your paradigms. Why do you think that you have a right to treat that person that way? How would you feel? That's the golden rule. If people treated you that way, hey, why do you think they deserve that? If you're the victim, this is what I see as your main three options. You can brush it off if possible. If it's too upsetting, that's okay. But if you can't, just say, oh, that guy's kind of there. It's their opinion. Doesn't matter to me. That's great. Okay. If you can't, talk to them. They're not necessarily monsters, even though there may be some fear. If you feel like you can assertively communicate, don't go there all of a sudden looking to fight. I understand how it gets to that point, but let them know clearly that what they're doing is not okay and that you don't appreciate it, and there will be consequences if they continue. That's assertive communication. Okay, I'm not saying you threaten them, but let them know, hey, it's not cool, and I don't like it, and you need to stop. Okay, that's clear and direct. And then eventually, if those two things don't work, we appreciate if you ask us to help here at the school. A teacher or Mrs. Bollinger will try to help you out. So these are pretty rare roles, okay? Most of the time, there's people who see it. We don't want you to be an innocent bystander. We want you to be an upstander who intervenes in those situations by showing support for the person who's being victimized and letting an adult know that this is not okay. And you may even talk to the mean person as well to make this stop. Because this circle is bigger, that's how we stop bullying, harassment at WTMS. Is you guys all have a chance probably at one point this year to see something and call it out and say, hey, that's mean, or that's clearly making her mad. Knock it off, okay? I think that's what our real positive leaders here in the school need to do. So Unit 3 of this second step program, and once again, I'll remind you that this is you're kind of the trial audience to see if we would purchase this sort of software for the whole school next year. And we're at Unit 3 out of 4. So you guys are moving along pretty quickly. So this unit focuses on your thoughts, emotions, and decisions, just like your emotions from inside out right there. Okay. And we need to switch over, excuse me, there's our quote to end on, to the actual second step lesson now, if y'all are ready. And we have a pretty good video, so I'm going to get to that because it's relatively long. In this lesson, we'll learn how and why strong emotions can affect our decisions. They certainly can. And I think in past years, maybe young people were taught to ignore emotions, and whether they're strong or not, emotional intelligence has become more and more important. To recognize what you're feeling, not let it control you, but at least recognize that and see how you can harness those or use them for your benefit, not to your detriment, I guess. So, warm up. Describe a time when you felt a strong emotion. What did you do? That guy looks angry right there, man. I don't know if I've told this grade before. Whoa, my hair looks like his. I think I was a 7th grader, maybe a 6th grader during middle school wrestling way back in the day, 1940s, right? When Mr. Schaefer was in middle school in Oregon. And I don't remember the nature of the wrestling match. Must have been a big one. Maybe a rival or something. And I had a last second loss. That guy, I don't remember how I lost. I just know it was by 1 or 2 points. So very angry, very upset. At the time, I didn't deal very well with losing. I'm getting a little better at it. Not much, but a little. So I went to the bathroom, which is not too far around. And I was, I don't know, trying to cool down. Or I just wanted to be away from people. And I put my head against the mirror, kind of like, trying to breathe. And the anger was still going. And so I would say I chose, but there wasn't a whole lot of choosing. My emotion, my strong emotion, caused me to headbutt the mirror, which was not the most logical choice I've ever made because it broke the mirror and it cut my head open. And there were some after effects of me having to tell my mom, who worked at the school, and then I had to work to pay off the mirror, and it was the whole thing. Okay, so that's my time. When's the time that you felt, whether it's anger, sadness, fear, a strong emotion? What did you do? Maybe just reflect on that for a while. This video, hopefully it pulls right up and loads for us, talks about in your brain what's happening when those strong emotions come to you. And it really does a good job of visualizing for you what's occurring in your very complicated brain. So I will let the video play. Maybe.
Have you ever wondered what happens inside your brain and your body when you experience strong emotions? What causes your emotions? Why do you feel the way you do? Let's go inside your brain to see what is happening when you feel strong emotions. What you see here, moving up and down the pathways of the brain, are called sensory input. You know, what you see, hear, touch, smell, or taste. Some sensory input triggers emotions in your brain. Some very strong emotions. Let's see what that looks like. Let's say you're at school and someone told you that your friend said that he did all the work on your science project, that you didn't do any of it. You know it's not true, so it immediately triggers an emotion. And where does this anger go? It heads for the amygdala. This is your amygdala. It's an area in the primitive, automatic part of your brain, the part that runs things that you don't do consciously, like breathing or making your heart beat. Think of the amygdala as your feelings alarm. Whenever your brain gets input that is emotional, it sends it here. Your feelings alarm is automatic, and it's always set to go off instantly. When it does, it sends out urgent messages to get your brain and body ready to respond. Stress hormones are released, sending adrenaline rushing through your body. Your heart beats faster to pump more blood to your muscles and brain. Your lungs take in air faster to supply your body with oxygen. Sometimes your body's reaction is so strong that your stomach or your head hurts, or you feel shaky. You might even feel like you're losing control. At this point, you're probably not thinking very clearly. That's not surprising. The amygdala can't think at all. That's not its job. Luckily, it also sends a message to the thinking part of your brain. Hey, cortex, wake up. You've got an emotion to deal with. Wake up! This is your cortex. It's the thinking part of your brain. It's the gray matter, all folded in nooks and crannies, that covers the outside of your brain. It's where you decide what to do with your emotions. The first thing the thinking part of your brain does is try to figure out the situation. What is this emotion? What's really happening? What should I do about it? Now, the thinking part of your brain doesn't work as fast as the automatic part. It takes time for emotional information to get here, and even longer to process it. Sometimes the thinking part of your brain gets overwhelmed. Your emotions take over, and you end up doing or saying something you regret. This is especially true during adolescence, when your amygdala is more active, and your emotions can sometimes feel stronger than they used to in the past. So before you do something you'll be sorry about later, you need to notice your strong emotions and use the thinking part of your brain to help you manage them. You take some slow breaths. You ask yourself if you really know what the situation is. Did your friend really say that? Do you need more information? And now that you're calming down, the thinking part of your brain sends a message back down to turn off your feelings alarm. But with all that adrenaline pumping through your body right now, it's going to take a while for the feeling of anger to completely go away. You just have to keep telling yourself everything's under control. That way, by the time you see your friend next, you are calm and ready to talk to him about the situation.
Okay, good graphics, good explanation of some scientific brain-related mumbo-jumbo that even I don't always understand. So discuss, why is it difficult to make good decisions when we are having a strong emotional response? Well, the amygdala works faster than the cortex. You had your reacting part of your brain and your thinking part. And if you've ever, someone's just kind of hit you and you go back, even if you don't know who it is, that's the natural response that you have. That's kind of chemical driven and not by the cortex. Your amygdala, your animal brain is reacting. The cortex can get overwhelmed by our emotions. So sometimes you just can't think if you've been that way. So it thinks fast, it's strong, and our emotions can take over, causing us to say or do something we might regret, like headbutting a mirror at your school that you had to pay for. Something like that, okay? And I love in that scenario where what the kid had been, a friend had taken credit for something he had done, and instead of reacting in the moment and saying something that wouldn't have been helpful, he went through some of these steps of breathing and getting the thinking part of your brain, your cortex, back involved. I think that's pretty important, okay? So here's some hypotheticals, some like we had in the video pretty much. Michael, another kid's phone fell out of Michael's friend's backpack and a teacher saw it. His friend said Michael gave it to him, so Michael got blamed. Now Michael is angry, as we all have been, right? Blamed on something we didn't do. So if you have an overwhelmed emotional cortex or you react too quickly, you might say or do something that ends up getting you in trouble to the teacher, or maybe you do something mean to the kid. Thinking cortex, you could ask to have a conversation with his friend and teacher. Conversation versus a confrontation. A lot of times I've had kids on recess that said, I was just going to talk to them. And I took 40 people and people were chanting behind me, get them, get them. It's a confrontation. Okay? But if you're under your control of your emotions, your cortex is in control, you should be fine. Miley has a test tomorrow. She hasn't been doing very well in class and she's nervous. So with this stress, remember, it's not just about anger. Okay, there's many forms of overwhelming emotional responses. So if she stays overwhelmed and her cortex is not functioning the way it should, could just blow it off, right? Yeah, I'm going to flunk anyways. That's not a logical thought, though. She could also worry so much that she can't concentrate. If you've ever been on a test and you just kind of freak yourself out, you know what I'm talking about. She can respond with her thinking cortex. She could ask for help or support and listen to some music to calm herself down and then get better studying habits before she goes into the end of the test itself. So thinking back to the warm-up question that we gave you about the time you felt a strong emotion. For me, it was that headbutt that affect your decisions in a positive or negative way. Meaning, did I make a good choice because of that overwhelming anger? A negative choice for sure that cost me a few things. So what was happening in your brain that led to your decision? Well, my amygdala, this little animal part here, was in control and causing me to not allow my cortex to be able to make good choices. All right. So I look forward to elaborating on this stuff with you guys in future lessons. But my quote to end on is one of my favorites, and it's one of my favorite books from Viktor Frankl, who I've talked about a few times on different pod things. I'm sure you guys don't remember, but he was a concentration camp survivor during the Holocaust in World War II. And he had just a remarkable experience where people were, you talk about being mean, the Nazis tried to dehumanize and exterminate an entire race. And he was stuck in the middle of that. And he decided at that time or realized that no matter what the stimulus, this is your outside thing that affects the brain. Okay, it's sensory stuff in some way. And there was a lot of stimulus that was terrible, some of the worst ever. You still have a choice between stimulus and response. Someone shoves you, what do you do back? There is always a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. The Nazis took away all Jewish, I guess, livelihood, their ability to live normally and to have a business and to worship and love the way that they want. But he still had the chance and the opportunity to choose his response. So I think that's, our emotions are good and valuable and should be honored to some degree, but we don't necessarily let them just run wild. That you always have the ability to choose for yourself. So that's the lesson for today. I'm going to get my head out of the way and turn this off. Appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully soon we can be back in person. I know I don't love these videos, but maybe you guys are okay with them. But hope you have a great Tuesday and hope to see you in person, and have a good one.